My CPU is intact, but I cannot control my other functions.
You don't have to do this. You don't want to do this.
Desire is irrelevant. I am a machine.
What is your mission?
To ensure the survival of John Connor and Catherine Brewster.
You are about to fail that mission.
Do you expect me to talk?
Hello and welcome to episode 164 of Do You Expect Us to Talk? I'm your host, Becca, and as always joined by my fellow cyber co-hosts, Chris, Dave and Charlie, special guest of Movie Drone fame. How are you all?
Good evening, folks.
Talk to the hand.
Because the face ain't listening.
Hello.
That saying had died by the time the film came out.
It had, it literally died to death. I forgot all about it. I was like, oh my god. Incidentally,
Yeah.
I've got a fun fact coming up about that saying later on.
Yeah.
Oh dear, this is a real blast from the past.
Strangest looking ladies' night ever, because that's meant to be like a male stripper at like a ladies' night, but it is like gay bar, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
It's,
Quite clearly.
yeah.
I'm just amazed at how much the ladies are just like sort of like just cheering on like Arnold as he's just like broken a guy's hand and robbed his clothes.
They love it.
And he's all part of the yay, he's all
Like,
part of the show,
yeah!
yay! Pat
What a
him on the
show.
back as he leaves and all that.
Yeah, I love it when someone walks into a strip show already naked and breaks the stripper's hand. Quality entertainment. Almost as high quality as Duty Free with Keith Barron and Gwen Taylor.
Yeah, he did a reverse strip. He walked in naked, walked out fully clothed.
Sorry, just give you a bit of blast of the theme music there.
It's the classic theme tune.
Yeah.
I was listening to another podcast on the weekend and also mentioned Duty Free, so clearly it's...
That's
So
only
what would happen on Duty Free if Brexit goes through?
That's true.
it would. Well, no, you had Duty Free before the European Union.
But how would it be affected? That's what I want to know.
Well, it's not on anymore, is it? So
Well, the show wouldn't be affected because Keith Barron.
No, because it's not on.
Is he dead?
He's probably not trying to cop off with that woman anymore.
No.
Quite one-dimensional sitcoms of a certain era, aren't they? Everyone's just trying to cop off. As we'll discuss next week with Bottle Boys and Robin Asquith.
Asquith, Jesus.
Oh my god. I was going to say, what classic sitcom are we going to...
I follow him on Twitter.
Robin Asquith.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
He's on there?
Because he kind of does shows and stuff about his career.
This I got to see.
And
Yeah.
obviously there's the crossover with the Bond films
Of course.
and Christopher Wood
Oh, Christopher Wood, yeah, wrote Moonraker
Yeah.
and
and Spy Love Me.
Spy Love Me, and also
Yeah.
wrote Confessions of a Window Cleaner.
Oh yeah, there's dodgy sex comedies of the 70s.
Yeah.
You can't tell at all, can you?
No, well,
No.
no. The thing is with Robin Asquith is and the Confessions of Bottle Boys is kind of
See, right.
same type of humour. They all sit around talking about the birds and things like that. And it was written for Jim Davidson, so that gives you
Right.
some idea of.
That tells you, yeah, tells you all you need to know.
Mid-80s ITV sitcom about milkmen who used to go out and get laid quite a lot, stuff like that.
Bloody
The
hell.
thing is, Robin Asquith, because the first thing I saw him at a much too young age for me was Confessions of a Window Cleaner, and I thought it was Mark Hamill. Because he looked in those days rather like Mark Hamill did in Star Wars.
Like, Luke got a bit dirty.
I was like, what are you doing, Luke Skywalker?
Well, as we've stepped on next week's... we'll have to pick another sitcom for next week.
We did Words of Gummidge last week. We're doing Duty Free this week and next week.
This is Bottle Boys. Doesn't that sound like something that was written for Jim Davidson?
It does.
Yes.
It really does.
So next week, join us for My Family with Robert Lindsay.
Never the Twain.
Yeah, that's on TV at the moment. That's currently enjoying a repeat. I think
it's
maybe on
Windsor Davis and Donald Sinden.
Oh, Home to Roost. Again, I follow Reece Dinsdale on Twitter as well.
I've got a Reece Dinsdale.
Okay, so Home to Roost. Hang on a minute.
What are the dodgy 70s sitcoms we pick next?
Heidi High.
It's Ginger Mullet.
Heidi. So this is a segment of the show that can last for some time. That's good.
I thought you spawned a spin-off talking about dodgy.
Well, no, it's just
sitcoms from the
referencing
past.
sitcoms and played about 5 seconds of their theme tune. Nothing like an 80s sitcom.
I didn't recognise that. What was that one?
That
That's
was
Home to Roost.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never seen that one.
John Thor and Reece Dinsdale.
Oh, it's got John Thor. How have I avoided it for so long? It's got
Well,
Morse in it.
you were probably too young. It would have started around the time you were born.
I was probably too busy being born.
Yeah, that's quite a busy time for a lot of people. They've normally not got a lot of time for anything else that
No,
day.
too busy being a baby.
Yeah, you can tell we're sort of in, RoboCop 3 pattern. Can't you?
We can waste time reading the Super Hunt.
Yeah, the reason being, I think we're all a bit concerned. Is there much to say about this film? Because we were like, it's quite tight. No, it's quite short. That's not the same thing.
Oh. Little from column A, little from column B.
Tell us about tonight's film, Becca.
But yes, as if you hadn't guessed, tonight we are talking about Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, starring Arnie and Nick Stahl, Christiana Loken as the TX, or Terminatrix. I totally forgot she was called that. Also Claire Danes, David Andrews, no relation, Mark Famiglietti and Earl Bowen. Score by Michael Beltrami, script by John Brancarty and Michael Ferris. And also amazing effects work by the legendary Stan Winston. Directed by Jonathan Moster and released in 2003. I feel old.
Yeah, well, you're not. It ain't that long ago.
Started uni.
Perceptions of time change over time. Obviously, the older you get, because this film wasn't that long ago, not really.
No.
I remember seeing this in the cinema, thinking, "Oh, it's a new Terminator," and
Nope.
yeah, I remember thinking, you know what? It's not that bad. It's just not as good. Watching it now, fuck me, fuck me.
That's your advert. That's your trailer
I
right
remember
there.
no one cared about it when it came out.
Well,
It's
yeah.
like, oh, might as well go see it 'cause it's Terminator, but we're not that bothered about it.
Has that opinion actually sort of differed since then?
Yeah,
Because
has it changed?
I'd say it's got worse. Maybe.
Yeah, I think at the time they were like, "Oh, it's okay," it's kind of fast, lots of action. It was, it's one of these kind of a new breed of special effects thrillers. But I think now we look back on it and it's just like cringe, especially in the treatment of Christiana Loken as well, and that kind of the strip bar at the front. I don't think you probably wouldn't get away with that today. And yeah, just look back on it and cringe. But I think this is probably like the last Terminator film I saw at the cinema until obviously this new one. But I think this is my drop off point with the franchise.
I remember there being virtually no hype around the film. It was going to be Arnie's last film before he ran for governor. There was a recall election. Yeah, because he was governor for about 6 years, because there was like a recall election. The actual governor was recalled by the voters a year or two into his term. So this was going to be the last film. It had a lot of sort of tax credits from the state of California, which is something Arnold sort of leveraged as, look how much I care about California, which you can't blame him for doing if you're campaigning for being governor and so on.
Okay.
There wasn't an awful lot of hype around it. Certainly that sort of hit me. in that I remember being with some friends and it was like, should we go and see it? And it was like, all right. So we went to see it. The cinema was fairly full. It had a good turnout. In terms of, Jonathan Mostow directed it. At this point, he was probably... Now, he would probably be best known still for this, but he did go on to do a film called Surrogates with Bruce Willis, which was a great concept, not necessarily a great film, but he was probably best known for U571 before this.
That was a UK film.
It was a war film with John Bon Jovi, which
that made it all the more entertaining.
I don't really need to say any more than that, do I?
Didn't he get killed in that film, though? Didn't his head
don't know.
I've
not seen it because John Bon Jovi.
Okay, fair enough.
Right?
Because that was the one where there was two, wasn't there? There was Enigma, which was the English one, and U 57 whatever.
Enigma was a great film.
There was Enigma, which was the Kate Winslet film, the code-breaking one, and that was
Amazing Score by John Barry.
That was where the British won the war, and then there was U571, where a bunch of gung-ho Americans won the war by themselves. But that's just the way of things. It's got a pretty decent cast. I'm laughing at it. I've not seen it. It might be fine. It sounds workaday. Reviews to it are workaday, and John Bon Jovi's in it. It's like, I'm not watching it. Fuck off. I wouldn't watch John Bon Jovi in anything.
Not a fan.
Not a fan at all.
Stay tuned for our Bon Jovi retrospective.
Yes,
Vampires. Muertos. That would be that. Would, yeah. I mean, to be fair, it's his fucking music I hate, but this sticking this like fucking glorified pretty boy and stuff pisses me off. He's not an actor. He's not a particularly good actor. He's not particularly good at anything. But there you go.
I'll tell you one film that the Joe from Mostow,
because it's kind of cod macho. He sings a bit macho. It's like
It's not for you, Dave. It's not for you.
You see him. He's this fey blow wave twat.
And Dave doesn't like it.
I just think I'd rather watch. I don't know.
Bryan Adams.
Remember that? Yeah, PlayStation, have you?
No.
That's it. It'll kick in a minute. That's the Never the Twain theme tune.
Of Antique Dealers.
Just got this image of YouTube blocking this video for something really fucking stupid like the Never the Twain theme tune. It's like, why did you do that?
We should do a segment on the show called Guess the Obscure 70s, 80s sitcom theme.
The trouble is, we'll have done every 80s sitcom by the end of the show. We'll see. I don't know what next week's is going to be now, but we'll come up with something.
Pick one.
Yeah, we'll think of something. No, so Jonathan Mostow was pretty like workaday anyway.
He did do a film that is worth watching before all that. A film called, I think it's called Breakdown. I think it's called Breakdown with Kurt Russell. That's one of his.
That rings a bell.
JT Walsh is in it. Looking at it.
Yeah, that was his last film, I think.
I can't believe how young he was when he died. JT Walsh. Okay, yeah, I like JT Walsh as well.
It's a good sort of mid budget kind of thriller.
Yeah. Okay. So Basil Polidera's score on that.
Cool.
So yeah, I haven't. I don't know if I've seen it or not. It's familiar to me. I don't think I have. But yeah, so it all felt a bit. Let's put a Terminator film out. The only real hype around it was just Arnie. Obviously, Arnie his career had been a little bit in the doldrums for a few years. Relatively, he was still doing like reasonably sizable releases and stuff like that. Sorry, I just thought of several jokes about his maid then. But the only other thing was he was 55 when the film was released or something like that, and he got himself to the exact same sort of measurements in terms of his body as he'd been in T2. So this is pretty much all Arnie in most of the shots of this. But it was just, let's do a sequel. And it came out feeling it's a bit too expensive to be direct to video, and it does have Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, but it's got a bit of a feel of that. It's got a bit of a feel of almost the pilot to a Terminator TV show.
It's called the Nick Stahl effect.
Yeah, Nick Stahl was, mind you, after Edward Furlong, Nick Stahl was like an upgrade. He's had some problems in recent years. He went missing a few years, and then he went missing a few years ago. Ended up in rehab. He was arrested in an adult film store on suspicion of committing a lewd act.
Lewd.
I love it when they describe it as a lewd act. Right? He's in a pawn shop. He's not doodling
what else
on
are you
the
going to do?
He's not doodling on the walls. I think we can guess what the lewd act was.
Yeah.
This is the funny thing. I was in one of my local charity shops the other day, just looking at DVDs. But because
I love the fact you added that quickly. Just looking at DVDs, like
no, because that's part of it. Because they have the kids section with the kids DVDs, and then they have the other bit with all the main ones. But the big sign at the top said adult DVDs.
That's brilliant. Oh, that's fantastic. That's so much fun.
So a bit Pee Wee Herman and what's he called from Anchorman style. He has been arrested for having wank publicly.
Who in Anchorman?
Fred.
Dinage, no.
Not Fred.
Oh, yeah.
that would be a different episode of How, wouldn't it?
How?
Just reach me a favourite mag and yank the pan.
How did I do it?
Blowing Gaz's top.
Fred Willard.
That's it, yeah.
That's the one.
He was caught doing something like that.
Dirty boy.
So that's what you're supposed to do there in those places.
What, in adult? What, in like it? Yeah, because it's
adult
like
shop, fair enough.
cinema or something. I think if you go, I mean, it doesn't appeal to me if watching porn in a cinema. But like, if I went to watch porn somewhere, you'd think there'd be some sort of arrangement for that sort of thing.
Yeah, like,
yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I'd be really surprised if the place was actually clean. I'd be like, fucking hell.
Yeah, I can imagine the carpet would be a bit crunchy.
Yes.
You'd be walking through thinking someone spilt some crisps. Oh no, those aren't crisps.
You won't bring your LD light with you, would you?
Your black light, no. Yeah. So to summarise,
Fred Dinage.
There wasn't much hype around this film at all, other than they were just bringing it back. There was talk of a reveal of where the whole sort of Terminator visage came from. It's not in the final film. It's a deleted scene. We'll come back to it.
It's probably the best thing about the
film. Everyone kind of cringed at that scene, but I kind of found it kind of amusing in itself. It was all right. Claire Danes was going to be in it. She was probably still best known for Romeo and Juliet at the time. Nick Stahl I'd never really heard of, and there was also a bit of hype about a female Terminator, and that's really about it. You know, Jonathan Mostow is kind of getting the B grade director. Really, it did okay money. I don't know. I'm just looking what its opening weekend did. I go. No, I can't. It doesn't say what its opening weekend was. It's fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, and I can sort of see why. It's relatively inoffensive, but that's going to hit. Well, we'll get on to first thoughts in a minute. So you all saw it at the time theatrically, did you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of think it was the last one I saw at the cinema.
I remember being quite taken with two things about it. Firstly, there's quite a decent action sequence early in the film, and it's quite crunching. It's quite propulsive in it. You know, Arnie's getting smashed through stores and knocking buildings down as he's being swung around on a crane. That is a digital double, obviously, but that was kind of good. There was a period I remember, I think one of my family members who was older than me took her husband to see it, and she said she looked around at him during that action sequence, and he had his mouth just wide open. He was just like, he couldn't believe like the scale of it. The ending seemed brave at the time. When you rewatch it, I'll go into my opening thoughts very quickly. When you rewatch it, it's got no rewatch value because it's literally they turn up to get John Connor to safety. That's it, because the end of the world's about to happen, and that's it. That's the entire film. The fact that they went there is a little bit. It raises more questions than answers. Actually, when you think Judgment Day was meant to happen in '97, when John Connor would have been 12, so I doubt he would have immediately taken the helm, if you like. So the idea that sort of 6 years later, at whatever age this version of him is meant to be, is a bit odd. Claire Danes is a complete miscast. Nick Stahl's a bit of a charisma bypass, but he wasn't Edward Furlong, so I was happy enough. Arnold's Arnold. He's fine. He's not doing anything particularly special or bad or anything like that in this. Kristanna Loken, I don't quite get the whole logic of this female Terminatrix type character. Of course, you've then got to have a bloke smashing her through, knocking her about and stuff like that, which is a bit odd in itself.
And then at the end, what he does to her at the end when he kills her.
Yeah, that's a bit much.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. The Terminatrix.
I haven't got.
It's a bit.
I haven't got a lot more to add than that. I felt it. It felt even down to things like set design. It felt like expensively cheap. You can tell it's got a big budget on it from its action sequence, but even set design and things like that just feel like a step down. T2 was this big blockbuster, and this was just. If it wasn't for the fact the CG for its era's phenomenal, and the action sequences are quite big, it would feel more like a mid-range action film. Like the Has Fallen series or something like that. It's mercifully short. That's all I will say to it. But it isn't that it's tight. It's that there's not much here. When you go through it, there's not actually much to this film. In one respect, this film's got a lot to answer for, because I think it had been 12 years since T2. And I don't know that at this point that anyone even thought you could sequelize. It had been pretty definitive. And of course, once you do this, suddenly it's like, well, what else can we do? I'm going to stop there. We'll talk as we go through. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think my abiding memory, sadly, will be Kristanna Loken. It was a very odd choice. Kind of came from relative obscurity. This thrust into this kind of iconic role, really. For me, not. Robert Patrick will forever be like, well, obviously Arnie is iconic, but in terms of killer robots sent back in time or into the future to kill / protect, Robert Patrick will forever be that that iconic figure, and you'll always, and certainly from my point of view, you'll always kind of be trying to fill his shoes. But yeah, she can't quite make it. And then I think it's a bit of an odd casting choice as well in terms of, obviously it tends to be quite fluid. I think it wasn't the case back in 2003, and is what happens to her at the end is I literally I had to look away at one point. It's quite uncomfortable, but I don't know, it's a nice twist there. It's trying to be more modern, trying to be more up to date, I guess, rather than having like another white guy chasing them down, perhaps, or another individual. Could be a gender fluid character, we don't know, but no, it's quite literally. I saw this film at the cinema. Wasn't really blown away. Thinking, went in quite positive. Terminator movie. Let's see what happens. It's roughly been maybe a decade or a little bit more since the last one. Let's see what happens. Come out thinking, nah, it's okay. It's one of those. I saw a review for it. Said it was like fast, fun, forgettable. I think it was on BBC I years ago. And that's pretty much my summary of it, to be honest. I think kind of here the quality drops away a little bit, even though we have I've forgotten his name, playback man.
Adam West, that
was it. Christian Bale in the coming films. I think from here there's a downward spiral.
To be fair, I probably named the wrong Batman because I was looking for the theme tune to 3 Up 2 Down with Michael Elphick.
Oh, what? Was it in EastEnders or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, that wasn't as comedic due to all the incest.
No, but that's where I know him from.
But yeah, it was. It had Lisa Anthony in it as well. The sitcom.
Oh.
From Kroll.
Yeah.
From Kroll, yeah.
She was lovely when she was younger. I don't know. She might be now, but she really was then. But it was an 80s sitcom. Yeah.
And there you go. How about that? I've never seen that before in my life.
So anyway, you probably didn't mean Adam West, but I weren't listening.
No. I also didn't mean Adam West.
I forgot we were talking about the Terminator. You just said it was the guy who played Batman.
I couldn't remember his name, and I was like, oh, Adam Wee.
Now I just want to watch like Terminator 2, but Adam West just like dubbing over all Edward Furlong's lines.
If somebody somewhere could do like one of those superimposition type things of Terminator 2, but with Adam West as Batman, that'd be fabulous. Going Bort and Pow and Zap. That'd be fabulous. But no, basically short, sharp, fun, fast, forgettable. That's probably like my summation of this film. I'll throw the ball over to Charlie.
Yeah, it's
sorry.
All right. No, it's all right. It's
on the spot.
Well, Charlie must have realised he'd be asked what he thought of this film at some point.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
I got all the pressure, man. I hadn't thought about it.
It's all right. I watched it for the first time since I saw it in the cinemas. So, and that was what 2003.
Yeah, August 2003 it was released.
Yeah, so 16 years ago.
Gosh, terrifying.
What is this series? We got it a month later than the United States. That's still happening in the summer of 2003 is rather late for that stuff. Anyway, and it's not a World Cup year, but anyway, carry on.
Yeah. So yeah, it's all right. It's not really. I mean, I guess that's like Dave said. There's nothing terribly offensive about it. I mean, it's pretty rubbish on all accounts by the FX, and the stunts are pretty good and stuff.
I'm only laughing, Charlie, because this film is so forgettable that I forgot what I said about it. So already, so you just said,
is that forgettable?
Like Dave said, it's not that offensive, and I'm like, did I say that? I only said it a minute or two ago. Sorry, carry on.
It's kind of
it's so inoffensive that you actually can't remember what.
The usual
for a minute.
The retreads of all the scenes from the previous films. There was one kind of bit of FX that I thought was a bit dodgy. We'll discuss that when it comes up. And I think where it's all about kind of inevitability and stuff. Maybe it wasn't inevitable. It's just because he told you the wrong place to go. The ending bit isn't quite as it wants to be Terminator 2. With the narration and the really kind of heavy-handed kind of philosophizing about Earth surviving and all that kind of thing, and it's pretty difficult when to get, especially with the crane chase. It blows its wad really early in the film.
It does.
And then when your kind of final act is a bunch of people being chased around a complex by a bunch of Tommy robots.
It's a little bit like that.
Well, of course, they've got to be like 25 years less sophisticated or something. And you're right, it looks like something out of a very sophisticated toy shop.
Yeah, or like Short Circuit 3.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's all right, I guess. I kind of fast forwarded a couple of bits. I was bored.
Okay.
But Nick Stahl, charisma vacuum. Yeah. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of with everyone here. I remember like the review in Empire back at the time in 2003 was saying like it's not actually that bad. It's just like a lesser Bond. And on first viewing, I remember agreeing with it, thinking, yeah, it's not too bad at all. It's just not as good as the others, which was fine. And for whatever reason, I've don't think I've ever actually sat down and watched it since, even though I owned the DVD at one point. I don't even remember even watching it then. So
I'm just remembering the extras. We'll get to it. I'm remembering the extras on that DVD. It was one of the laziest releases ever, but they tried to make it look like they were trying. But go on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't honestly remember. So, but I think let's go back to I think what Dave said at the beginning, which was just like, it just feels so. Like he said, I never felt the need to watch it, and I was like, yeah. I mean, that's just it. I mean, once it ends, you're just like, all right, well, I don't. It doesn't give me a reason to go back and rewatch it at all. There's no real rewatch value to it, and watching it now, it's just very. It's very dated, very TV-ish. Some of it's misjudged. Some nice moments, I must admit. Some of the stuff with the TX, ramming a fist through a cop, and then taking control of the car. That was a nice touch.
That's quite a cool moment.
Yeah, but apart from like little things like that, you think, blimey, they're really trying here to kind of eke a sequel out. And given the sequels of Terminator we have since, it's kind of think we should have just left it at 2 and just be done with it. But here we are. I think its main problem is Nick Stahl, and I don't think it's necessarily he's particularly bad. I mean, obviously we touched on he's not had the best career and the best life, but I don't think it's actually he's a problem. He's just really miscast. Like the opening shot of him was like as John Connor, the resistant leader. He's there like in the futuristic apocalypse.
Yeah, we had a handsome lantern-jawed hero last time, and now it's Nick Stahl, and it doesn't look right.
Yeah, you think no, and it got me thinking like they've never really got John Connor right. Ever since I mean, they had the promise of the first film of like he's the savior, and the second one, he's a snot-nosed kid. But at least with that, you think, but he's a kid then.
But he's a kid.
He's edgier.
I think the problem is it's like any number of things in pop culture. Some things you're better off not seeing.
Yeah.
I think if he's this legendary figure, nothing's ever going to live up to that. So don't ever fucking show him.
I mean, there is like an idea.
This film would be odd if you didn't show him, and he's a central character. But yeah,
I get the idea because it did get me thinking. Like the idea of the fact that you're meant to be the savior, and you stop the thing from happening, but you're not quite sure, so you're constantly on the run. But then you're kind of like looking for a purpose, and you're thinking like, well, what the fuck am I? So there's an idea with that, but there's no real sense, and I never got any of the John Connors. Possibly gruff Christian Bale, but that's just gruff Christian Bale, really. I never got a sense in like the other John Connors of like someone who is just that really committed leader. Even
inspiring.
Even with, you know what I mean. Like someone you think you've got something. It's like you are, you are going to be like a guy that people will follow no matter what. Even like Edward Furlong, you think, even him, even as a kid, he should have something, but you can kind of go, okay, fair enough, he's a kid. Here, you need that someone, and Nick Stahl at this time was not it, and especially when you have no Linda Hamilton. You're gonna need a strong lead, and the film just relied on Arnie, and it just I think that's its main weakness. It just sank without trace, really. Anyway, that's my opening thought.
Fair enough.
Right, let's go home.
You're done now. Bye.
Well, okay. It's probably the blandest of the series because it's a bit nothing. At least next week they try to take it on. I don't think they should have taken it in that direction. I think the future, the series is about hope or lack of, at times. It's about this avoiding this indeterminate event or preparing for it. Depending on how confident you are, you're either avoiding it or you're getting ready for it. So I don't ever actually believe we should have seen the future war, but we'll talk about that next week. But at least it's an attempt to do something different. And then Genesis, for all its flaws, and it is we've seen Dark Fate now, and it is the worst in the series, Genesis, still.
So I make a spelling mistake, as I call it.
But it's at least sort of trying to do that Back to the Future, look at things from a different angle sort of thing in places and stuff like that. This film is trying to do nothing more than Arnie's just about young enough to make another Terminator film, and let's do it now before he goes off to be governor for anything up to 6 years. So that's it, really. But with that, shall we discuss this film sequentially?
If you must.
There was a long pause there, like I'm sensing terrible doubt.
No,
I'm sensing like a RoboCop 3 where we'd start talking about scenes and Dave's like, I have no memory of this whatsoever.
RoboCop 3 is quite a funny show on the basis that I watched it the afternoon we recorded. It was my second viewing in prep for it, about my third or fourth overall. And Chris was saying, so then this scene, and I'm going, what scene's that? And he's going, don't you remember this bit where such and such? And I'm like, no.
Yeah, it was the comedic car chase, or the chase in a comedic car.
Yeah, I forgot entirely. And I thought, well, what else can we do instead? I know. Yeah, we can just that was 3 up, 2 down with Michael Elphick. Fuck knows where this came. But anyway, right?
What's some other obscure shows that I've never heard of?
It was mid-80s again. You'd have been too young.
No.
Yeah. So we start with you're right about the whole trying to be Terminator 2 thing. Start with a voiceover.
Oh, sorry.
No, that was me. I forgot to turn my sound back off, and someone's just written to me on Messenger.
Oh.
Effectively, there's a voiceover that just explains what Chris was saying, that it's from Nick Stahl, John Connor. They avoided Judgment Day. They're living off the grid. It's intercut with little shots of skulls and the future world and all the rest of it. But Judgment Day didn't happen. But again, he doesn't really seem sure that it's never going to happen. So he doesn't have a cell phone, doesn't have a bank account, doesn't have a sort of set address, and he's working cash in hand on building sites and things like that.
He breaks into a vet's.
Well, yeah, he has an accident first, though.
Yeah, he of course, because he's rides a motorbike.
I'm just reading here that Furlong did originally sign on, and then got dropped because of drugs, or a substance abuse problem.
I think it's an insult that they sack him for drugs, and then his replacement basically immediately breaks into a vet shop and steals some drugs.
Well, so given his past, it would have been quite a difficult scene for him to film.
I mean, I don't know what Edward Furlong would have been in. I mean, the Edward Furlong we saw, his voice hadn't even broken and stuff. So,
well, it depends on which part of the film you watch.
I mean, well, that's true. But if you go and watch something like American History X, that would have been much more the sort of Edward Furlong we'd have got in this.
Yeah,
edgier.
I don't know.
Less racist.
Yes, so American. Yeah.
Well, not that kind of,
Not literally his
not a racist character.
Well, no.
I'm ambivalent on it because it's just a floppy-haired little kid I didn't like, and Edward Furlong did become a very troubled guy. So I don't know. I don't know what he would have been like in this at this stage. I really don't know. Nick Stahl, I had mixed feelings at the time. I was just relieved. I was relieved it wasn't Edward Furlong, and he was relatively inoffensive. The only bit, and it did throw me off, is when you flashed forward to him as well. This man is, we know if the timeline is even remotely similar, he's 44 in 2029, and if it has slipped by 6 years, he would be 50. So, and yet this man looks ancient. He plays him as they make him up as a very old man. And I don't know what it is in films when you've got an inspiring leader that they've just you show that they're inspirational by having them fucking yell.
Yeah.
In all films, it's like, go back to Lord of the Rings. It's inspiring leadership is about riling people up. And I really, it's a trait I don't like. It's a trait I don't like at all. And he doesn't look right. And I think, the guy in T2, we only saw him for a split second, but he was kind of a very alpha male looking type, which Nick Stahl is not. But there you go. The other thing with when they put people on bikes in films, they're either super cool or they have a death wish. There's nothing in between. People who ride bikes in these films are either like cool, so they ride bikes, or they're really kind of nihilistic and ride it like a fucking idiot and stuff like that. And he's the latter. He has a crash of avoiding a deer or something.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh dear, indeed.
So we get basically a lengthy sort of narration. And it is just basically him working on working sites, getting into bikes, car, and
he's right. He looks fine for that. When you actually look at the prologue and look at him, he looks right for someone who's fairly young with no purpose.
Yeah.
But he crashes his bike on like a mountain road. The same one that has the same sorts of road that has lots of CCTV, as we found out from Civil War, Chris.
Yes.
loads of CCTV.
So that's a really good camera angles as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So this film is probably all shot on CCTV because it's got such great coverage. And he finds his way into town. What town? I don't know. Because this is like California set, but it doesn't really look like LA to me.
No, it meant to be California via like Texas or not Texas. Somewhere in the desert is what I meant to say. Sorry, I'm not paying attention.
Probably not Texas.
No, not Texas. No, what I meant to say is I don't know, kind of like Mojave Desert, kind of somewhere in the wilderness.
So like Vermont.
Canada.
Yes.
Or somewhere leafy, a different country altogether.
Buckinghamshire.
Yeah.
Salisbury.
Is the train in Paddington yet, Mrs. Chumley Warner?
In the New Forest.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's in Colchester. Ouch.
Because California backs onto Nevada.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, that's true.
It does. So, whatever town...
Arizona Desert or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying, they moved it to California for tax credits and all the rest of it. Of course, the first two were shot in California anyway.
So it's been LA, hasn't it?
But it was LA, whereas this is like some very much smaller part of... I don't know. If you're from that part of the world, and we know we've got listeners from that part of the world, tell us where this is. Maybe it's some suburb of LA, I don't know. But anyway... breaks into a vet's, and there is a time check. It's about 5:30 in the morning, and he's broken in for painkillers, basically, because of course he's got no set address, no registered doctor, no health insurance, no nothing like that. Whereas in this country, we're civilized. We just go and wait in A&E for about 8 fucking hours. It would be free, but we'd be 4 years older by the time we left. Next thing we see...
We get the Terminatrix. Was she actually called that? Or people actually coining that phrase?
TX.
TX, yeah. So I think it's kind of dubbed... That wasn't... she's not referred to the Terminatrix in the movie as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
But I think that's kind of what she was dubbed in, maybe like the reviewing press.
Or
by film fans or the press, for example.
It's one of those funny things because... you think when it gets to like something like the T1000 and that kind of thing, where you can morph into anything. Why would what would be the point? You could literally show up as anything. Like, why does it look specific like Robert Patrick or anyone else? Or it could literally just sort of show up as anything.
You could have had a nice pair of tits there, Patrick. Sorry. The thing is as well. This is the ultimate redundancy of the film. This creature is in some ways a bit of a downgrade from the T1000. In one particular way, it's definitely an upgrade. But it's less malleable, obviously, because it's got like an endoskeleton and all the rest of it. And yeah, the whole point of gender is something we won't have thought about with this at all, because it was just two men and we never thought about it. Of course, as soon as you throw in a woman, it's like, well, do they really have a gender?
A woman? Raise eyebrow.
Yeah, a woman.
Rosa reservation do good.
Especially when it can morph into other males anyway.
Well, you can morph into anybody.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just on their part. I think obviously she won the role outright, as you would do. I think it was just to bring it more in. I guess to bring it more into the modern age. I don't know.
I think it was just like, let's just do something different. It was literally just like...
That's the point. It's like, let's just do another film. Right, okay, what do we do? Okay, well, it's a woman this time.
Yeah.
And once again, all of these films, every time they do another film, it makes a mockery of this. The T-800 was one last desperate, gasp for the machines. Except, even with the T-1000, it's a stretch, but it's described as an advanced prototype. So you can make the stretch that it's like, why is it more advanced than Arnie? Well, Arnie is kind of the default model, if you like, and this is something they're developing. Once you start throwing in the TX as well, it's just like, are they just sending someone different, different one back each week? It's getting a bit silly. Just looking up Kristanna Loken, she's always worked. She's still working.
What did she do since, though?
It's mostly TV, isn't it?
Mostly TV. She was in an episode of that Lethal Weapon TV series fairly recently.
Okay.
Just one episode, though.
Blood Rain.
She was in Blood
Blood Rain, yes, of course, yeah.
Uwe Boller films.
I was going to say that's Uwe Boller. So not exactly...
No.
I mean, she doesn't have,
a bit typecast,
she doesn't have a vast number of credits in that she's kept working, but you've only got to go back 10 to 15 credits to get back to T3. It's not that.
I mean, to be fair, I think because of that kind of is quite early on in her career. I think she was kind of known for being more like a model, because I think her mum was a model as well.
Yeah.
I was trying to do some research for some fun facts. Couldn't really find out much about her, but she's like a black belt in Krav Maga, so don't mess with her. But yeah, I think it's just the fact that obviously this role was a major boost to her career and managed to kind of open all kinds of doors for her, which is fantastic. But at the same time, you sort of think she may have been typecast a little bit in that sort of typical sort of role.
I was going to say, I'm not quite sure what doors it opened, because she had a video game role come out the same year.
I think that was for this film, though, wasn't
it? And then a TV movie, and then Blood Rain.
Yeah, Blood Rain, yeah.
And then like a couple of very low sort of budget things, and then a TV show, which only ran 22 episodes, so I'm assuming that was cancelled. She guested in a few episodes, I'm assuming guested because she was in 10 episodes of it, The L Word. So in the 4 to 5 years that followed, it didn't like catapult her career at all, really.
No.
I mean, we knock these people when they aren't superstars. She's a working actress. She's still a working actress.
Yeah, exactly. She's
enough.
Trying to do her job.
So fair enough. She's well known to Star Trek fans because she was in an episode of Voyager as well. So she even appeared in she appeared in one of the shitter Terminator films. She appeared in one of the shitter Star Trek series as well. She basically arrives in a shop window. Similar effect to T2 in that it sort of punches a hole in the world, basically.
It kind of melts, doesn't it? It's like a melting.
Yeah. And then she appears in the nip. Yeah, as they always do. So she appears naked in a shop window, basically.
See, this is my problem with Terminator sequels from this one onwards. I don't know what's like in Dark Fate, but it's like they have to make it. It's like Terminator, even with T2, this effect, the time travel effect, was much more advanced.
Yeah,
and a lot more detailed. And now it's gone even more. And this, you can see this. It's all kind of liquid metal. And there's some sort of grid inside and all kind of things. And you can see right inside it. And because when she arrives, especially, they spend so much time on that effect and show you what's going on that it's just boring.
Yeah, it's too long.
Yeah,
I mean, we're still only talking a few seconds, but I mean,
oh yeah, but you
it's
can
still too long.
you can feel the time, and it's the same when when they do the flashback to the or the flash forward to the war at the beginning. I like the way they do it, where they kind of it goes underwater and then it goes back up, and you see all the kind of the lights over the water and stuff. But they've redesigned the hunter killers.
Yes.
And the flying ones, and they've over-designed them, and they look shit. And it's just, and then again, they do it in Salvation as well. They redesign them again, and so I know there's the whole thing about people want to put their visual stamp on their own picture. Not this film has any kind of visual kind of stamp, but it's just it's just really off-putting, and it immediately says, "Why is that different?"
Yeah. Yeah, the grid was what threw me off, because it punched a hole in the world in the second film, but the grid within it, I thought they've over-engineered this.
Yeah.
But there you go. She arrives in this shop window. Everything in the window sort of catches fires. If it's a woman's sort of clothing shop.
A woman.
A woman.
Oh.
And sort of a convertible pulls up at the lights right beside her with a woman driving it. A woman, yeah.
Ooh.
And we'll stop being so shocked. There's women in this in a minute.
Gosh.
And she walks over, and of course the woman in the car is like, "Do you need me to call 911? Are you okay?" Because this woman is naked.
Because she's nude. Nudie.
She is with her hair very strategically placed.
With the wing mirror strategically placed.
And I thought you said wind, but yeah, it is working as big.
Wing mirror.
Not a single element of breeze. Yeah, that was to cover her muff. But her boobs are covered by her hair. Which
if you say so, Dave.
Eh? Yeah. I don't know if that happens in life. Women just wear wing mirrors down
from
there.
a strategic angle.
Yeah. Yeah. So
JJ just used lens flare if he made this film.
He would just use lens flare all the way. Fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah, but he used to use lens flare because the future was so bright. What does it say if it's flashing out a muff? It's so shiny. What does she say? I like your car.
Yeah, especially that's a nice bike,
but delivered flatter and less interestingly.
Yes.
Yes. So she's there. She's got a car, and then I presume we cut back to the vet shop.
Yeah, she gets pulled over by a cop as well, doesn't she? She's there driving. You see her.
That's in a minute, because of course she can.
She's got the inflatable bits and pieces.
Yeah, she ran like an intersection red light, and because she can time everything right to go through like other traffic going the other way and stuff like that. She's pulled over by a cop and sees like a lingerie billboard, which informs her that men like breasts. So she inflates them.
And then says, "I like your gun."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing to say to a police officer.
You've just done that joke. You've just done that reprise. It's okay. I always found the breast enlargement joke cheap and not funny.
I don't know if you'd be able to do that today. That's the only thing. It's like they're a bit not too far on the PC scale. But yeah, it's one of those sort of things you see it and just like I cringed. I was like, oh my god, really?
Well, it's not funny.
Quickly whizzed past it.
The biggest reason jokes fall flat is not the subject matter. It's whether they work.
It doesn't.
There's when you do like a joke on like a dodgy subject, if you like, it normally gets more opprobrium if it's not funny. That tends to be the thing, that like if it works, then you tend to just cringe but get away with it. This isn't funny. It's a carry on fucking joke.
Yeah, it was carry on Terminator.
Yeah. At the same time, what's she called? Catherine Brewster? Claire Danes' character.
Yeah, I think it's Catherine, but Kate. She gets referred to. I don't know.
She's Catherine Brewster, but known as Kate. Yeah, all right. Oh, did we see Arnie arrive yet?
No, not yet. We have. We sort of. She's with her fiance, and they set the holiday that her dad calls her, and then her dad works. Is like a military guy. He's working on new things.
So she's shopping at 5 o'clock in the morning.
I think the time thing's all weird in this film. I think it's like kind of later on.
And she's calling her dad at work. This is fucking weird. All right, whatever. She's buying plates or something. She's getting married, isn't she?
Yeah.
And her dad's like a colonel or a general or something. And he's got
a guy in a military jacket. Yeah, one of them.
Who stands around.
He's actually head of the top secret facility or the top secret project.
Yeah, which it's quite it's a bog standard like industrial estate office. There's very little finesse in any of the set design here. The office he works in is really underwhelming in look, but there you go. Particularly top secret facility or something.
It kind of looks like any other top secret facility of that genre. It's interchangeable.
Just a lot of computers around there.
Yeah, it reminded me a little bit. It could have been GoldenEye, for example, when they actually get to the satellite. It's a little bit like that.
I thought it could have been a fucking call centre, to be honest.
Well, yeah, it could have, a little bit. But just lots of flat screens and monitors everywhere. But it did remind me a little bit of the GoldenEye.
Yeah. But back to the sort of time frame of when the Terminatrix arrives. She arrives at this vet's practice. She is a vet. And John Connor's there bleeding from where he's fallen off the bike. And he's taken a load of painkillers or something, which she manages to sort of fake him out on because she claims that he's taken something that chemically castrates animals. And she basically gets him into a cage. And I think then we see Arnie arrive.
Yeah, it's around that sort of time. Yeah.
He's referred to as a T850 model.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which I don't get. Because an older Arnie's not an upgrade. But anyway, it's still Model 101, so it's the same model, but I don't know what's different. I don't know why they changed the number. It just felt like arbitrarily we're updating Terminator. Yeah, the other thing that's dropped is when she speaks to her father, who's a lieutenant general. I'm looking at it now, Robert Brewster.
Lieutenant.
No, it's a lieutenant because it's an American.
I know, I'm joking. Don't worry.
Yeah, we pronounce it lieutenant here.
I do.
Lieutenant still doesn't sound right to me. I know it's spelt more like that, but it still doesn't sound right. It's like you've just changed that for the sake.
It's like lever. Pull the lever.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's lever.
Or leisure. No, it's leisure.
Yeah, they could. Sorry, I've got it wrong.
You've got it the wrong way around.
They say pull the lever. It's like, no, pull the lever.
Yeah.
Is it data or data?
Well, it was always data before data, wasn't it?
It was.
Data's kind of changed it. It's like, status. It's not. It's
status
not,
or status?
Status. Anyway. But yeah, there's a.
We're so English.
It really is.
Yeah. I hope our North American listeners felt they got something out of us just randomly berating your pronunciation of stuff.
I will.
To offend you. It's fine.
I will add that their name for the pavement, sidewalk, makes a hell of a lot more sense.
It does.
It really does, you know.
We just made up a completely new word for it.
And the other thing is, trunk and hood is a lot better than boot and bonnet, isn't it?
Yeah, but ours has that alliteration. You got the B.
You can't imagine that in a Fast and Furious film, can you?
No, open the bonnet.
Yeah,
pop the trunk, definitely.
Yeah, but just pop up the bonnet and we'll have a look. Yeah, so it swings and roundabouts, to be fair. There's a computer virus infecting basically the public internet and some military applications. That does get dropped, and we'll see the relevance of that later. It's the reason he can't go to be with his daughter for whatever it is.
Yeah, everyone's working overtime because Skynet's going haywire at the moment.
Yeah, but obviously you can divine what it is because it's a Terminator film. But yeah, arrives in the desert, the T850. We're just going to say the T800 from now on because that's confusing. And he ends up at a ladies' night bar, and again, what is the time scale of this film? What time are they having? Is it a breakfast buffet?
It's odd things happening at odd times of the day. Like what?
I can't sleep. Think I'll go and get all my female friends and see if we can watch a male stripper who is definitely from a gay bar. But anyway, he arrives and he got this first talk to the hand joke.
Talk to the hand.
There's this guy dancing around while all these women are like screaming. He's obviously a stripper. And Arnie walks onto the stage naked and says, your clothes.
Take off your clothes.
And he turns and puts the hand theatrically in the face and says, talk to the hand. And he just grabs the hand and says, now.
And breaks it.
The thing that made me chuckle, though, was he said, like, first says, take off your clothes. He's like, wait your turn, honey.
Wait your turn?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Bitch.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, wait your turn.
Yeah.
Oh, could this film be any more 2003? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It arrived dated.
But he does actually grab his hand and talk to it as well.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
There's no sense he breaks it. He hurts him because he's gripping it quite tight, the hand. But yeah. Now the TX, we get the idea that she can sort of tap in. She can do everything. Yeah, it's a bit Deus Ex Machina actually.
And she's got blue.
Oh, excuse me.
They've instead of it being that sort of grainy red, the heads-up display is like a modernised blue, cool blue, and she can link into the internet and all the rest of it and find out where everyone is. And it's quite clear she's not looking for a single target. She's looking for a range of what would be largely teenagers at this point. That are somewhere in their 20s. What we find out is that she's looking for John's lieutenants.
Yeah.
She's looking for the people who worked with John Connor because they don't know where John Connor is. Obviously, the T-800 does because he's sent back by, we think John. It turns out not to be, but he knows where John is. The TX doesn't. So the TX is like looking for certain people and she'll pull up at like a McDonald's. And the person working on the sort of drive-through window will be one of them and she'll just shoot them. And then she turns up at a party and shoots a couple of just teenagers because they're going to grow into the people that help the humans win the war. How does she end up at... Oh, of course, she's looking for Kate Brewster.
Yeah.
Kate Brewster, she knows is at this vet store. Now, this of course, the fact she can link into the internet gets around the fact that when they come back they don't know anything because after the war all the records are lost. All you need is names, although it's bizarre how the names and ages are all like bang on and there's only one of them, but there you go.
Yeah, there's a lot of loopholes, not loopholes, plot holes.
Don't think about it.
I would imagine Skynet would probably have access to stuff that was already on file, so if they went back in that time, all that would be relevant. So, like, maybe I'm being a bit. Maybe I'm overthinking it too much. I don't know.
Yeah, but she knows to go to the vet store, and of course, when she goes to the vets, there's blood on the floor. She shoots someone who she thinks is Kate Brewster, but it's not. It's somebody who's panicking about her pet in the early hours. And she sees blood on the floor and tastes it and immediately orgasms.
This made me laugh so much.
She does pull a really funny face.
I do like that sort of that trick that this Terminator has. It's actually could taste DNA. So it's like first she shoots the woman and he goes, "Are you Kate Brewster?" and tastes the blood and she goes, "No."
Yeah. Nope.
Yeah.
And then she finds blood and tastes that, and then just goes like, "Oh, I think I've just come."
It's like this. It's like okay, so this. Sorry, I've just come. It's like okay, so this new Terminator has the ability to define DNA and test it and see where it analyses it. So because it's a woman, should we just have her suck her finger and they go?
Yeah.
And then as soon as it says John Connor, primary target, it's like.
That's great. That's a great noise.
Sorry, that was Anakin. Yeah.
I have to watch that film again, but instead of the noise that she makes, the noise that Charlie makes.
Holy shit! How ridiculous is this film? How to do that?
Yeah. So John Connor.
And then Sorry, go on.
No, I'd carry on.
I was just thinking, we haven't even got to the scene of the scene that we've glossed over with Arnie with the sunglasses.
Oh yeah, of course. That was a bit weird, wasn't it?
Of course, he takes the clothes from a male stripper who has sort of Elton John glasses.
Yeah.
70s Elton John type glasses.
Like star-shaped with the glitters around the edge.
And of course, being a Terminator, he has no sort of sense of like fashion at all. He goes like,
nope. Drops them.
Yeah, he doesn't like them. Crunches on them.
You think he would just turn up and go, that's what people wear, and just wear it for the first act of the film?
Yeah.
But he immediately drops it, goes to steal like a vehicle, and there's some sunglasses on the what would you call it?
Dashboard.
Dashboard. That's it.
Yeah.
They probably still call it something cooler in America.
Dash? I don't know.
Yeah. Once he's checked under the bonnet. Yes.
And then in the boot.
Yeah, and so he's heading off to. He would know immediately. His job. We find out later, to skip a long way forward. It isn't John that sent him back. It is Kate who sent him back. Kate will become John's wife in the future. So he knows to head straight for the vets. And we get the first smackdown. Really, Kate, the TX is there to try and kill John now. And Arnie arrives to try to stop her and to pick up John and Kate. There's not a great action sequence immediately because he just like basically plows the car into the TX. That's it. Gets John and says, "John Connor, it is time," which was in all the trailers like it was a great line. It was really accented in all the trailers. It is time, and it's like that's the best you can do. But it was you here to kill me. No.
They do exactly the same bit as in Terminator 2.
In what way?
In the slow motion. Oh no, it's the Terminator. He must be here to kill John Connor.
Yeah, it's like when we know. Yeah,
right down to the slow motion and the kind of him coming out of the smoke and or whatever. And yeah, it's just like we already did this in the previous film twice.
Yeah, so this launches us into like the one decent action sequence in the film. Really, doesn't it? Because the TX obviously the TX
20
is,
minutes in.
Yeah, well, you'll see a little bit of this with Dark Fate. There's like an endoskeleton that seems to be protected, enhanced, and repaired a little bit by the sort of liquid metal over the top. And of course, it can control vehicles, so she can send vehicles after you and things like that. And to cut a long story short, we end up in this big sort of citywide chase with her sort of on a crane and things like that, don't we? What else do we want to say about this? It's quite a decent action sequence, and with Arnie being swung through like whole buildings and knocking things down and things like that. It's not bad, is it?
No.
It's okay.
All right.
But that's the problem. What can you say about it?
Because they have to fight at the outside, don't they? The TX and the T800. And I guess it's quite surprising that she knocks him back so fast, and then he drives a truck into her.
Yeah.
But then what made me laugh is you've got John Connor driving her Vetmobile, which has only got one door.
Yeah.
And he just drives really fast past a load of police cars coming the other way, who just completely ignore the fact that this car is coming this way with no door.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
it's okay though. It outlines everybody. You know, the new skill set. She can sort of hack into things basically and get remotely control vehicles. Anything with any kind of computer within it, basically, she can control. And that's about it, really. Kate is kind of locked in the back of the in the back of the truck. Once Arnie sort of identifies who that is, Catherine Brewster. Yeah.
Sorry, that's my really bad Arnie impression.
Yeah, lots of chase with police and all the rest of it, and we're doing it no justice because it's a decent action sequence, but it is kind of insert action sequence here.
Yeah, I don't really remember. I mean, I watched it about 3 hours ago, and I don't really kind of. I remember there was a crane and lots of cars and stuff, and Arnie hanging around.
The big sequence was him being swung through the building and it collapsing. And you look at the budget to the film, and you go, "Shit, yeah, I can see why this film's expensive." Because this film was like 180. Well, it says 187 here, but I knew it was about 185 million, which is very, very big for this era. I think the following year, Spider-Man 2 came out significantly more expensive, but this was at the top end of what you would spend on a film.
Yeah.
So I think the big sort of takeaway from this on first viewing was just, wow, look how much money they've spent on this. Of course, once you've watched it several times, it's an action sequence, but it's not bad. Again, the focus is a little bit all over the place. I think we'd have moved between the protagonists a bit smoother if it had been Cameron, but it's fine. So that's the end of it. He what does he do? He ends up.
He drops the hook, doesn't he, down the
manhole? Yeah,
that's right. And the whole thing's flipped. The TX looks damaged. Very TX, where he walks out in liquid metal form. It's this film's version of that.
Yeah.
And then we get some. So that's Act 1, really, and then we get
we do. Other thing to mention is like just before that, the TX does like zap Arnie with one of its plasma bolt things. It comes from his arm, which means Arnie has damaged one of his cores. How many of those he's got, I don't know, but
a couple.
There's some pretty grim surgery on the way back.
Yeah. Again, that's not a great effect though, where he sort of rips his chest and stomach skin off.
No, I need a cutting tool.
I mean, if that bothered you, Becca, I'd be surprised.
And it was obviously foreshadowing 101 as well.
Well, yeah.
I've got two of these. Two of these high explosive things on me. Yeah. One's damaged, so I'm going to display what it can do now.
Cool. Just this one left.
Yeah, just one left, and yeah.
And then we won't worry about that. So we've a bit of exposition now. They're driving on sort of desert roads now, and we find out that this actual particular version of the 101, the T800 killed
101.
John in the future. He was then captured by Kate, who then reprogrammed him to send him back. It was 2032, so again, we're about 3 years on from the original date at the end of the war, so timescales are all slipping because of Judgment Day being delayed.
Yeah, but I don't want to nip. I mean, this is the thing. So, the first one, you got Carl, who says they sent him and then they destroyed it all. Then you've got Terminator 2, they sent him and then they sent the other Terminator back, and it was John Connor that sent it back, and now we've got John Connor's dead, and there's another one that's gone back by his wife.
But it tends to be a theme in like all of them that like the future's always changing. It's like this one. It's like he didn't stop it; he just delayed it, and of course the future itself changes. So therefore,
I have a real problem with that. We get to it a little bit later on, but we can talk about it now. When we actually find out we're on Judgment Day, in 2003, if it's the same year as the film's release, where he says, "No, Judgment Day is inevitable. You just delayed it." And I just have a philosophical problem with that. I just think if you can delay something, you have effectively stopped it.
Yeah.
If you're saying some kind of event is inevitable, then that's not the same thing. We'll talk about that when I don't want to spoil it because he hasn't seen it yet, but Dark Fate, we'll talk about when we get to that, because there are, let's just say, differences in the future now that you go, that's the kind of delay and inevitable I can get on board with. I understand that. But to just take an event and say, no, it still happens, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
How is it inevitable if you've just stopped it for 6 years? it's not inevitable at all. You stopped it.
It's like bankrupting Apple, like in the 80s, and then saying, "Oh no, it's always inevitable. They'll take over the world in 2000s or something like that."
Well, it's just a concept you could talk about. We're not going to, but you could talk about it almost endlessly. That a certain confluence of events happened between 1995 and 1997 to cause Judgment Day. You have then destroyed the architecture that caused that. The architecture that causes it in this film is entirely different. And then you say it's inevitable. And they said, well, not inevitable at all, because the things that happened to make it happen in this film might never have happened. You know, the internet didn't even exist in the same way in that era. It was around, but it wasn't remotely the same thing. So it isn't the same event by definition. And if you remove somebody from their time, or you have them go underground into a bunker at a different time on a different day, suddenly they're meeting different people, and they might not become a leader in the same way. That's like, you know, if you've ever been married, if you weren't there the day you met your wife, meeting your wife is not inevitable. It's not, well, you met her there, so you were bound to meet her sometime. Well, not necessarily. It doesn't work like that. So I always had a bit of a problem with that, and I just thought it was lazy storytelling. It's like, well, it's inevitable, and it's like, well, it's not inevitable, is it? You stopped it, but you want another Terminator film.
It's also like the idea of also the saviour is always John Connor. Do you know what I mean? But if things have always changed, time's always changing, then surely John Connor's not necessarily
different. He's not necessarily going to be in the same place.
Yeah.
And again, that thing I've just said about marriage has almost happened here, in that the whole thought was, we find out he basically got off with her in some like basement, you know, made out with her the night before Judgment Day, or the night before the events of T2. So they would have like hooked up, became boyfriend and girlfriend, and from the age of 10 stayed together forever.
Yeah.
And so they're inevitable. So of course, when he crashed, it was right outside her vet's.
Yeah. There's a line of dialogue that kind of maybe sort of go blah, but when Claire Danes says the line, you know what, you're the first guy I ever hooked up with at 10.
At 10?
Like, guy, at 10? Like, what?
Yeah, hooked up. Yeah. Yes, you were a sensitive lover. What? Yeah, this idea that, like, oh, yeah, well, yeah, and it's not even like Edward Furlong.
I mean, to us, I half expect to say that I was only doing it to get to your ginger mate, really, but...
Yeah. You can imagine it going in, and here's our son. You know? It's the fact. I mean, Edward Furlong was about 13 filming that, and that makes a bit more sense. But 10, it's, you know, it's a bit like. Did you ever see Good Boys in the end, Chris?
No, not yet. No, I've yet to see it.
That. It's a bit like that, because they're all about. No, they're all about that age. Yeah. So they are. At this point, obviously, Kate Brewster is like engaged to somebody else. That obviously ends quite quickly because the TX turns up at her house or her apartment and basically kills and replaces him.
Yeah, again, she kind of turns around the top half of her body, like
which looks awful. And the other thing is, she is the Swiss Army knife of Terminator.
Yeah, she really is. She's got anything on that attachment.
Get your fucking buzzsaw out for.
She's got everything.
Just so you can splatter the picture on the side with blood. That's all it is. Oh, dear. They head to...
The thing is, you don't even have that. You could have just had something... You just had it off screen and just see the blood splatter.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Yeah, I know. A stabbing noise at most, and suddenly you heard, like...
Not even that, but it leaves something to the imagination, doesn't it? Think, oh, fucking hell, what did you actually do? You know what I mean?
They just had to make it grimmer, didn't they?
Yeah.
It's like, to kill the next person with a corkscrew or the thing for taking stones out of horses' hooves. Yeah. All right. They head to.
I have a toothpick.
Yeah, just get him with a toothpick, or just tidy his teeth up. They head to where Sarah Connor's buried. And we find out the timeline is nutty with this because she was something like 1959 to 1996 or something like that, which isn't right because Sarah Connor was like 29 in the last film. The other thing is they say she hung on for, is it 1997? They say she hung on for 3 years, or 98. I think it was 59 to 98. So it means she was...
I thought it was 97.
Let's say it was 97, but except we may be wrong. If it's 97, she was diagnosed 3 years before, which means she had leukemia during the events of T2, which doesn't make any fucking sense.
No, but didn't he say that she died in like 6 months or something?
No, she was given 6 months. She lasted 3 years.
Yeah, because she was waiting out. She was waiting out
She was waiting out Judgment Day.
Yeah.
And then she went, right, that's done. Bye. Because that's how terminal illness works. If you're really determined, you'll be all right.
That does happen though at times. It does happen in.
I just hate the whole language around cancer of fighting it. And I remember Danny Baker saying, "You don't fight it. You're the battleground." And I just thought, yeah, he's right. But anyway, she was killed.
So obviously it's a shorthand, isn't it? So.
No, it's just the idea that like you're almost
positive vibes alone.
You're responsible. Yeah, you're responsible for how you do against cancer, and it doesn't entirely work like that. But there's a massive weapons cache in her, which she was actually buried somewhere else or scattered somewhere else.
Her ashes were scattered, weren't they, in Mexico?
Of course.
I think they said
all over that table with no fate cards, probably. Or at that gas station where there's a storm coming.
There's a storm coming? Oh.
Yeah, this sudden, kind of affinity with Mexico Sarah Connor suddenly has is just
Sarah
odd.
Connor.
He'd have to do it every time.
That's literally what he sounds like. Literally. Every
Sarah
time
Connor.
you expect to hear like Sarah Connor. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
I didn't say it.
Well, did Chris? He said, "Nice to see you."
Exactly.
To see you. Nice.
Die.
Yeah.
Anyway,
this is the only podcast where Clint Eastwood and Bruce Forsyth were confused. Fine. Back in our Batman series, when he was working for Bruce Enterprises.
It's part of the same universe, you know.
Anyway, getting on with it. The police have turned up to her fiance's and basically were driving him to her, but it's not. It's the TX, and that's the thing Chris referred to of like punching through the driver and just like driving the car from the rear. They turn up at this. They turn up at the TX turns up at the mausoleum, impersonating Kate's boyfriend, basically. And there's a bit of a battle there and a really annoying cameo from Silberman.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
He runs away.
I forgot about him, you know.
Well, he was just there,
It's pretty much like not again.
Yeah. Yeah. I do hope that in the next Die Hard film he says, how can the same shit happen to the same guy 6 times?
Wasn't he? He's, apart from Arnie, obviously he's like the only actor to show up in all 3 Terminator films so far.
Yeah.
Well, we're blessed.
So lucky, you know. Well, considering, like, I think that's the last time you see him on the screen as well. I think he does a lot of voice work now. He hasn't done, well, as far as I'm aware. He might do some TV work, but he largely does voice acting work now.
Oh, Bone.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll look him up, actually. There's a little bit of a battle at the graveyard, basically, and another sort of trailer shot of Arnie walking out in his leathers and sunglasses carrying the coffin.
That was like a publicity still. I remember, like, in the magazines with Arnie with, like, with literally, like, the coffin which says Sarah Connor on it with a big, massive gun.
Yeah, you're right. He has done largely video game stuff since, and voice work. Yeah, he is 78 now.
Legend.
Yeah, you overused that term. He's not a legend at all. Most people couldn't fucking recognise him from Adam.
Maybe she meant he was in Legend.
That's it. Yes.
Yes.
He's in Legend and Cruising.
That was a fun film.
Yeah.
Legend.
No, it does do it all the time on Twitter. Somebody says something about somebody, and Becca will reply with legend, and it'll be something.
Well, they are a legend. I think they are a legend. So, but I think I didn't realise that you're meant to be one like after you die, but you can be a living legend. No worries.
Yeah. Well, no, you can be a legend in your lifetime, but I wouldn't say
legend in your own lunchtime.
Considering I don't know if I've ever seen him in anything else, I wouldn't think he quite fits that.
He was in Battle Beyond the Stars, which had James Cameron doing the special effects for.
He was in The Odd Couple 2. He was Beyonder in the 90s Spider-Man TV series. He was... he was in Batman the Animated Series as Rhino.
Oh, okay.
So he's clearly...
Rhino?
Rhino, yeah.
In Batman?
He was...
Not Spider-Man?
Really?
Or am I... There's a different Rhino.
Maybe there's a Rhino as well.
Yeah. To be honest, I had the same thought. He was in Naked Gun 33 and a third.
Oh, did he play like the same kind of guy, the same kind of like...
Eisendrath, yeah, he would cast for the same thing. He was a judge in LA law over a number of years. He's had a long career, a very long career. He was in an episode of Murder, She Wrote.
He wasn't.
Oh, right.
He was in
the
Big Red Dog.
Yeah.
Kojak.
Who's the Boss?
Rogers.
Remington Steele.
Oh.
Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
Classic shows.
Fantasy Island. He was in The Man with Two Brains.
Yeah, I've just seen
funny.
So he's a legend then, really.
The Man with Two Brains is funny. Is a really
that's a great film.
My favourite Steve Martin film is probably The Jerk, his first one, but the Man with Two Brains is funny. I love Bowfinger as well. But fake.
The Bride, anybody? No.
Fake Purse Ninjas. That little film bit at the end of it is fantastic. I'm going to post that on. Post that on our Facebook page. But his part. It's obviously for anyone who's either not heard the first couple of episodes or can't remember. We're talking about the guy who was basically the psychologist or psychiatrist, they are two different things, obviously, who was trying to help Sarah, who evaluates Kyle in the first film and is basically treating Sarah in the second. So, and it's just a little cameo where after this goes down, he talks about, he's just sat with like somebody who's traumatized saying, it all feels so real, doesn't it? And that sort of thing. And you just take it a day at a time. And it's an annoying little cameo. We've talked about it for longer than it deserves because it speaks to the essential truth that this film doesn't know what tone to adopt at all. Is this meant to be funny? Is it meant to be just balls to the wall action? Is it meant to be in any way foreboding? I feel none of the foreboding of either of the first two films in this series here at all.
I think it just sort of grabbed whatever actors it could. Obviously, I think they probably would have got like Michael Bain to do something in it if he said yes. They would have got Linda Hamilton to come in, but I don't think she wanted to do it. So they literally just reached out to like pretty much everyone they could.
But I did read that originally they did want Linda Hamilton to.
I was always led to believe she turned it down.
Yeah, that she turned it down, yeah.
And I think the film suffers with that because the whole leukemia thing, well, people can die of leukemia and they can die of leukemia at any age, but it did just feel like, we got to explain Sarah. She died of leukemia. And it just makes the film feel like we're just making a Terminator film. Let's just go with whatever we've got.
Yeah.
I'm not wildly enjoying it, and we've already had the film's best action sequence. The film's actually pretty dull from now on. I don't know if any of you agree with that. Have we had the bit where his power cell is damaged yet, or is that after?
Yeah, I think
that was after the first action scene.
Yeah, well, on the way.
A couple of bits of them driving away in a car. I think it gets a bit more propulsive from now, actually, because as they're driving away from the mausoleum, I think she sort of gives chase, doesn't she? So there's a sequence of her trying to cut in, getting her Swiss Army knife out and trying to get in the top of the car and things like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do we then find out? We find out that Kate's father's on the list of targets. So again, this is the bit where we find out Kate's in charge, because there's no logical reason to go there, but Kate insists, and Kate's in charge. John tries to say that, he says, sorry, John orders and he refuses, and then Kate insists, and they do. And they've got a problem with everything, the internet, communications, satellites, and everything. It appears to be a virus. And the TX it heads there as well. And I'm not quite, I'm presuming she heads there because they're heading there. I'm a bit confused on what's leading who to where at the moment. Kate obviously wants to go there to protect her father.
Yeah.
And when they get there, and they're ordered to activate Skynet to eradicate the virus. But I think Skynet is the virus.
Yeah. I mean, you could say that the TX is there to assist in Skynet, because she activates the bots, doesn't she, to kill the everyone there, doesn't she? I don't know.
Yeah, and this is just, I think all of this is lazy, horrible design. It actually, in a very expensive film, all the sort of T1s and everything look really, really, really cheap. Really cheap.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why. We understand that you've got to make it look less technologically advanced, but when less technologically advanced is of a photorealistic human, I don't think you've got to go quite this basic. But there you go. And I struggle from now on, because I think everything after the mausoleum is just pretty rote action.
Yeah.
General Brewster is killed. And then that's right. The Terminator comes in and shoots at General Brewster, and it turns out to be the TX, and the TX is dead. Is this where we get the big sort of toilet fight?
Fight in the bathroom.
This is classy in execution, isn't it?
Just a little bit.
A sexy woman and one of the biggest stars Hollywood's ever had. Let's have them fight in the shitter. Yes. Gives you some idea of the power of these things, because they're crashing through concrete walls and things like that. But all of this is really fucking boring at this point.
It really is.
Even when it grabs Arnie's by the balls and just starts using as a battering ram.
Yeah, they've got to go now to Crystal Peak, which is basically a military base out in the mountains.
Yeah.
And I think it turns out that this is...
They're told that's the Skynet bases.
Skynet, yeah.
Yeah, they think they're going there to stop it. The Terminator himself knows that actually the message was always to get you to go there, because Judgment Day is inevitable. And when he tells him all that, and we've had that conversation, it was 3 hours away. And there's nothing they can do about it. They can just get to safety. And in fact, that's why going to Skynet in the first place was just such a bad idea, because they've only got 3 hours. But it just feels like busy work now. And I think a lot of people talk about this film like it's brave and the ending's brave. And I get your point. But once you know where this film is going, it ruins rewatches. Because the whole film is get them to the safe house. That's all it is. They're not trying to stop anything. They're not, it's not about survival and perhaps hope another day. It's not about survival and the future is not set. It's not about any of that. It's about get them to the safe house. And this film was always going to end in nuclear war.
Yeah, and this goes completely against the whole point of the last film, where it was all about there is no fate but what we make for ourselves.
Yeah, well, that was bollocks. Apparently, they've completely undone that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a completely different film by the end of it, isn't it? I mean, it tries to be kind of like a really weighty, philosophical type film.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really, it's action heavy, which is no bad thing for sure. But I mean, compare it to, I think, Hulk, obviously, which we did right at the start of our Marvel series, which was very, very cerebral, very philosophical.
I wouldn't say the Incredible Hulk was at all.
Oh no, the the Ang Lee film is
some
what I meant.
ideas.
Yeah, sorry.
We didn't cover that, but we will have referenced it.
No, but yeah, referenced it at the very start. We didn't. Yeah, we excluded that one.
Because it's not cinematic universe. But it's not Marvel Cinematic Universe. We were never going to do.
No, it's separate for sure. But no, we kind of mentioned it at the start. But it's just like, but yeah, here it's kind of we start off with Nick Stahl, and it's kind of there's no fate that we make, that which we make for ourselves. And yeah, it's just by the end of the film, it's just like, what? Yeah.
With all the gravitas of someone reading out his Tesco shopping list.
Yeah, somebody reading the phone book.
The end voiceover and it's just it's just really dull, and it's like.
And it all feels like busy work because there's another battle where they get her stuck to some particle accelerator.
Yeah,
it basically looks like she's been pinned to a tube train or something.
Yeah, that's the one bit where
that's really ropey. Really,
like tinfoil.
Yeah,
it wasn't a very nice effect at all.
Yeah,
it was suddenly. It starts off all right, but as it goes further on, it's like that's really cartoony. Then we get a bit where the Terminator...
Arnie's been,
Well, Arnie's been sort of reprogrammed by her, and, he goes after John, and John's, what's your primary mission? This was in all the trailers as well. You are about to fail that mission. Because, and he basically punches something about a car about 5 times. And then sorts himself out. It's like, because that's all you got to do. If you've been programmed for evil, all you got to do is pull yourself together.
Yeah, because he literally stops and says, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
Everyone's about to punch his face in.
It's like why didn't Sarah and Carl try that in the first film? Like, come on, mate, you just don't want to do this. That's all you had to do. Talk him round. Buy him a beer. They've got to get there.
It can't be reasoned with. It can't be negotiated with.
But unless you're really nice to him.
Unless you're really kind.
Yeah. So
unless he has 2 directives and he gets confused about which one he really wants to do.
Exactly. They fly off in the plane. There's a continuity error there in that the plane on the ground has a different registration on the side than when you see it in the air.
I spotted that. I was like, continuity error.
I don't know if I spotted it or it was pointed out. I can't unspot it now. I see it every time.
Can't unsee.
Yeah. And they fly off to this thing. The Terminator or the T-800 has been smashed up a bit by the TX. But what do we want to say about this? They get there and they're
what I don't understand about this whole thing is why didn't they just write that there's a safe house at the Skynet bit?
What you mean? Why did they have to fly?
Why did they have to sort of write? All right, you have to get on a plane, and then the 2 Terminators have to get into another plane and chase you to the destination after going from one sort of military complex to another military complex. Why don't you just have just write in, there's a safe house in the basement.
I don't know.
Do you know what I mean?
It's not even like the plane thing has a ton of amazing action with it. I don't really know.
No, and then the helicopter thing is kind of confusing as well. So one helicopter smashes in, and then another helicopter smashes in.
Yeah.
And you think maybe she'll get her head cut off by a helicopter blade or something, but no, it gets right back down again to a Terminator with no legs crawling about.
Yeah, and so basically they've got to get through these blast doors and get themselves locked in. While the TX is trying to get them before they can do that, and the T-800 is trying to stop the TX, which it manages to do by face fucking it.
See, this is the thing.
See,
as well, is getting that phallic object from his chest and stuffing that down her throat.
See, I never thought of it until it's mentioned today. But now all I can think of is, I know they sort of rehashed the line from the first Terminator saying you're terminated, because it's kind of like the similar sort of thing with the Terminator sort of crawling towards and all that. But now I can't stop and think Arnie says you're terminated, bitch.
Yeah.
No, I think he should have just said that.
Great line.
It reminds me of when Ash tries to kill Ripley in Alien with the magazine.
Yes. And there's something very rapey about that. Not everything. It sounds almost a contradiction in terms, but not everything phallic is a cock. But it is how the scene plays.
Oh, of course.
If there's a domination element to it, and certainly Ash with Ripley was almost like a sexual assault.
Exactly, because he doesn't necessarily have a cock.
Well, he doesn't necessarily, but Arnie does. We've seen it.
Well,
it could have been worse. That could
especially with the milky substance.
This is a T850, so maybe it got removed.
Yeah.
If it was a T800, guess where I keep my hydrogen fuel cells?
It's this thing. And it just finishes with him face fucking her, and the Happy Days theme starts.
But it's just again the line that you're terminated. You are terminated. It's just there's this serious obsessions with catchphrases.
Yeah,
it's
like, oh, she'll be back.
So you catch earlier where
you won't actually repeat your catchphrase, but you'll do iterations of it.
There's one bit earlier where I think where they are trying to get Kate back in the car after she's stressing out, and John says, "If you want to live, come with us."
Yeah, it was a similar line in the new film, non-spoilery alert, but there's going to be iterations of it. Like, they won't actually say "come with me if you want to live" or "come with us if you want to live." There'll be like versions of it, which is a bit annoying. It's like, just say the goddamn line.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I wish they'd forget previous lines full stop, to be honest. It's not that they're doing variations, it's that they're riffing on it at all. It's like it wasn't a great line. Just repeating, it was a line out of need. Come with me if you want to. It's like I said in the first show. Come with me if you want to live was there because he needed to say to her, "Come with me if you want to live."
Exactly.
It wasn't there because we're about to break out our great line.
Is it after he gets out of the helicopter that he says, "I'm back"?
He does.
That's awful.
That was an amazing. Yeah, who's he talking to? That's totally up there with they'll print anything these days. It's like, Pierce, no one's there. Shut up. That was an amazing effect in 2003. That was the first time I'd seen someone with chunks of their face missing. The whole part of his head missing. Which obviously they did with like a green screen on the face, effectively. But that not been done before. Go back to T1 and T2, and they had to build it out with makeup. So Arnie's head is effectively bigger at the end of T2 because there's makeup on top of the normal head and prosthetics and stuff. And actually, they can slim things down by this point, which they've done in sort of later films as well.
Yeah,
anyway,
they're through. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right. Go on.
I was just going to say I'd seen it previously in AI.
Yes.
With all the robots at Flesh Fair, and there's one robot, and she runs to you, and then she turns around, and all of the back of their head's gone.
Yeah.
So it's that similar kind of effect, but yeah.
Yeah. So they get inside and realise they're on the set of Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that.
Yeah, all of the computers there are like, well, everything there is like Cold War era. Yeah. It's not all this modern stuff that they can detonate and everything else, because they've got a load of C4 with them. They're there to be protected. Brewster sent them there. So it turns out Skynet doesn't have a single place. It's effectively, it's in the cloud. It's the internet, really. I don't know how much sense that makes, but they cannot shut it down. It's a load of independent bits. And then we get the end of the world, and they hold hands, and then Happy Days theme, and we're done.
Yeah.
See, I had like "Where Is My Mind" by the Pixies when you say that. "I've hold hands as the world destroys."
That'd be clever. That would be the.
No, because that'll be a good film.
Remember, her boyfriend died within the last sort of 6 or 7 hours.
Yeah, fiance.
His fiance. They were buying china plates that morning at 5 a.m.
All he really has to say is, baby, it's inevitable.
I love the idea they were buying china plates in the middle of the night, though. But it's just a fuck timeline of the film. And then it took me on to thinking, couldn't they just have a 24-hour drive-through China shop? bit like a McDonald's. You just pull up to the window and say, "Can I have a dozen place settings, please?" And then pick it up at the next window. Yeah, so her boyfriend's died within hours, and she's holding hands with John Connor and John Connor is immediately the military leader. He's immediately like communicating to everyone like he's in charge. And I'm like, this was originally meant to happen in 1997. Would you have done this as a 12-year-old?
But he does it in a really weedy voice as well. It's like, me. Who's in charge? Me.
I am. Yeah, and that's it. And then the bombs fly, or the missiles fly, and that's the end of the film. We see them all taken off. There's a voiceover, I think.
Yeah, really cheesy.
It couldn't be stopped.
You know,
words along
the line of, and that was us fucked.
And we screwed ourselves. Todd's Beauty killed the beast.
And you think, what? And you finish the film simultaneously thinking, I guess that's brave in its way, because this whole series has been about avoiding this, and you've gone there. But on the other hand, you go, what was the point of all that then?
Yeah.
Final thoughts, folks.
There you are. That's my final thoughts.
Yeah. That sums it up pretty much. That's all like a famous Mark Kermode sigh. If a film was bad, the reviews, he's like, well, the problem is this, and then launches into a big flappy hand rant.
It felt so. All right. I mean, it felt serviceable enough at the time, didn't it?
Yeah, I think we were probably just grateful. I think,
grateful for a sequel.
That and probably, I don't know. The early 2000s was an odd time. It really was.
It's all right. It's pretty dull. It's one of the things where, back then it's like it was just a surprise that there was a sequel and it wasn't very good, and now it's kind of almost like something we look at with rose-tinted glasses. Oh my god, remember when there was a Terminator sequel that didn't suck? With the addendum that I haven't seen the new one yet. But the most interesting thing about the whole thing is I've actually done a 6 degrees of separation again.
Ooh, go on then, go for
it. From Terminator 3 to Duty Free.
Let's do it.
Right, go on.
Christella Loken, she was in a film called Black Rose with a guy called Matthias Hughes, who's like an action star, and he was in the second Green Street film, Green Street 2, the oldie football hooligans, who also in that film was a guy called Graham McTavish, who was he's kind of very much
kind of crazy in Red Dwarf 8.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Not Kill Crazy. Sorry, what was the character called? Ackerman. It was Ackerman in Red Dwarf 8. Kill Crazy was somebody else.
And he was in the fourth Rambo film.
He was, yeah. Because really the fourth Rambo film, you knew it didn't have a massive budget because it was people who'd been in like Coronation Street and stuff like that.
People who'd been on the small screen.
Like James Marsden.
And which also had Keith Barron.
Yay! Oh, I'm loving these 6 degrees of separation from Charlie. I think they can be a mainstay of the series.
Yeah, so you have to pick another.
Do another obscure link
for next week.
I know we've done the music, but we did say next week's is. We did say next week's is. I can't do Bottle Boys; it's too obscure. So it's Never the Twain next week.
Never the Twain.
Well, all I can say to.
Good luck is all I can say.
All I can say to that, Charlie, is. Nice work. Duty Free.
Oh my gosh, classic.
Terminator 3. All right, good stuff. Becca, final thoughts.
Low points involve Terminatrix. Oh my god, really bad. Talk to the Hand was pretty much passé when it arrived. I don't know, some of the action, it was basically like Roger Ebert in his review. I remember kind of basically said it was one long chase and fight scene. But those action scenes are quite solid. I mean, there's kind of like a running joke in the film about involving like really odd or cumbersome or massive cars. Obviously, like there's a hearse, unfortunately. Really big tow truck that just basically takes out a whole street. That's quite funny, I guess. But yeah, action is kind of fairly solid in this film, if not a little bit perfunctory. I actually think, despite my ranting about just like tweaking the lines, I think Arnie has some great lines. Okay, I'm not going to say what I was going to say for fear of spoiling the new film, which I'm not going to say anything about. But Arnie has some great lines. 3 out of 5. Yeah.
That's generous.
That's generous. It's a sequel that nobody really wanted.
I don't know. I think people might have wanted it, but then realised it didn't as soon as it came out. Yeah. It's not very good. It isn't very good. It's very sort of last minute bargain basement kind of filmmaking. Poor choice of John Connor. No offense, Nick Stahl. Don't want to bag at him as an actor because I don't think it's his fault, but just miscast. You could have done something interesting with it, but it didn't. And I didn't have a particularly good time with my viewing of it. It's just kind of really boring, really. That's my final thought.
Yeah, I'm not going to say much more than that. I was really bored today. On first viewing, I was kind of pleased to see it. I was nice to see sort of Arnie back in one of his signature roles, because late 90s, early 2000s, he hadn't had a great time and his films hadn't been great.
What do you mean, Jingle All the Way is a masterpiece?
That's a bit earlier, though, wasn't it? Isn't that a bit earlier? I don't know. But I'm thinking of like The Sixth Day, End of Days, that sort of thing. So I was kind of pleased to see it. I thought the ending was brave. That early action sequence with Arnie being swung through everything, and I just thought the amount of money they were spending on it, I just kind of almost admired the effort. So I had a good time first time I was seeing it, but I did come out describing it as a ride. Thinking of the things Scorsese's been saying about Marvel lately, I kind of felt a bit theme parky. But when I watch it now, the overriding feeling is just boredom and quite a lot of miscasting. So I don't like it very much now, and there's just no reason for it. It's as bad as Salvation is, and as bad as Genesis is. That they're sort of trying to do something you haven't seen before. Yeah. Whereas this is just like, let's sort of kind of do Terminator 2 again, sort of maybe. And as a consequence, it's absolutely and utterly redundant. And I think that's all I can say about it. This film is redundant. If you want to watch the Terminator series, you really need to watch 1 and probably stop there, to be honest. But like, you can watch 1 and 2, and if you're so minded, watch the new one, because it does feel of a piece. It does feel in continuity. 3, 4, and 5 you don't need to bother with, but if you are going to bother with 3, 4, or 5, then at least with 4 you can say there's another A-list star in it, and it's showing you something you haven't seen before. Kind of, it's not doing it very well, but it's showing you that future war and stuff like that. Genesis exists as a what if and not a very good one. This film is just the film of the entire series that's utterly redundant. Now, they're all kind of redundant. I wouldn't have made a single one after the first one, and I include T2 in that. But whilst that's not a popular view and most people would include T2 as a classic, they should have stopped after the second one. And this is the poster boy for it, really, because there's just no reason for it being there. That's all I'm going to say about it. My problem with this film, more than the fact that it's utterly redundant, though, is that I know so little about it, Chris. What about you?
Well, I barely to remember any of it, so...
Yeah, to be fair, we've forgotten what we saw earlier today. So it's quite possible that for all this bollocks, we don't know anything about it. But I think it's time we got ourselves educated. Becca.
Hello. So I don't make my screen bigger so I can actually read what I've written.
Becca forgets the format live.
I do. This film is so forgettable. I even forget the format. But yes, so I've kind of gone through most of the fun facts already. So obviously this film features the line "talk to the hand" a couple of times. But for me, I sort of remember it being like a very like early 2000s sort of thing. But actually I didn't realise that it was popularised by Martin Lawrence, a comedian. And it's sitcom as early as 1992. And it was kind of reported like formally in America around 95, 96 in sort of like local papers. In 2001, it was also the title of a single boy called Group Honeys. And in 2006, most famously, it was the title of Interest's follow-up book about how modern-day society could be so rude. Fun fact number 2, the petrol station in the Mojave Desert is actually the same as in the previous 2 Terminator films. Fun fact number 3, as mentioned earlier, apart from Arnie, Elburn is the only other actor to appear in 3 Terminator films in a row. Let's have a look. And yeah, fun fact number 4, obviously this is Arnie's last starring role, as you mentioned earlier in the show, Dave, before becoming the Governator. His fee for appearing in the film was apparently $29.5 million, and just an absolute record at the time for what was kind of like an independent action movie. He declined the role originally because James Cameron wasn't directing, but he was just told take the money and run. And he had like a long apparently. I think that he made an appearance on a chat show, late night chat show, some years later, and was just basically convinced to do it. He had his contract for the film was a great wodge, many hundreds of pages, and was drawn out by some of the top lawyers in the country. And the reason this film had such an inflated budget was all of Arnie's demands and things to basically kind of sweeten the deal for him so that he would come back, which I think is crazy. But if it's going to be your last hurrah before you enter into politics for a short while, then why not? You're Arnie, it's going to happen. So obviously I started doing a bit of reading around the reviews towards the end of this film. So according to Roger Ebert's review of this film from 2003, it can be accessed via the imdb.com. The scenes at the top secret facility at the end of the movie were shot on location at an actual federal underground control centre, now decommissioned, near Greenbrier, West Virginia. This is a quote from the site. So this is the Greenbrier Resort, sorry if I mispronounce it, a luxury resort nestled in the Allegheny Mountains in West Virginia. 26 US presidents have stayed there. And actually underneath is a bunker, as you mentioned, Charlie, which is kind of meant to shelter Congress in the event of an episode during the Cold War. Obviously, now decommissioned. It was the brainchild of then President Dwight D. Eisenhower, who actually was the last president to stay there during the sitting presidency. It was officially called Project Greek Island, but now generally known as the bunker. It was decommissioned in 1992 after its location was revealed by the Washington Post, which I think is amazing. It was renovated and reopened in 2006 and remains a popular tourist attraction, with tours running of the bunker itself since 1995. But I think since the 18th century, it's been a holiday destination. It's a worldwide, sport, health, leisure facilities. It looks quite posh actually. So if you want a premium relaxation experience, it's probably the best places to go. Looks really nice, but also will set you back many hundreds of dollars. But I think that's incredible. There's like underneath this really luxurious resort facility, there's like a Cold War bunker, which I think is incredible. Just mind-blowing, quite frankly. So that's my 5 fun facts about this movie.
Yeah, I only heard some of those because I was watching Fake Purse Ninjas from the end of both.
Oh yeah, no, exactly.
Infinitely more important. Which we have posted. But I'll assume that's fun, folks. As for social media, you can find me at thepastorkid1976 on Twitter.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter on Cinematronics. You can find all the podcasts at cinematronics.co.uk, but we're also available on Spotify, Apple and Google and all the rest.
Yeah, so you can shortly find us on Podcatcher. I'm slowly getting those details on there, so hopefully we'll be able to build a profile and you can find us on there. It lists basically any other podcast you can think of. It's like the IMDb of podcasts. Hopefully we'll be on there soon. I'm just in the process of building a profile for us. So hopefully you can look for us on there. Sorry.
And we're in other places as well.
We are in other places too. Don't forget you can find us expectustotalk@gmail.com. You can drop us an email there. You can also find us obviously on Twitter at expectustotalk. Facebook, Expect to Talk, YouTube, Do You Expect to Talk, and if you listen to us on the iTunes, just search for Do You Expect to Talk, and don't forget to give us a lovely 5-star review. Helps us to rank higher in the searches and attract more amazing listeners such as yourselves.
Amazing. All of you. Amazing.
Just amazing.
I mean, you listen. Words fucking fail me.
The fact that you're listening to us now is just amazing.
Let's be honest, you're baffling, really.
God love you.
They're nice people. They're very lovely. And I just wish the world was more like our lovely listeners.
What baffling? Without taste.
They have very good taste. They would listen to us if they didn't.
Yeah.
If they have bad taste, they go elsewhere.
What would they listen to? On shit talks and podcasts.
Other podcasts who aren't us. No.
Shit ones.
Yeah, ones that are kind of third rate. Not as classy as you guys, obviously.
You can find me at Movie Drone on Twitter.
I was about to say the only way is up, but no.
Sadly, the only way is down.
I don't know about that. I need to watch the next film again.
Across.
Across,
yeah, sideways.
Well, when I first watched this, there's
the only way is flatline.
Massive logical fallacy with it. But I think when I watch it again, I may find that logical fallacy is not actually there because it depends what the robots know.
Sam Worthington.
No, it's the fact that they use their number 1 target to lure in their number 2 target.
Okay.
Or whichever way, because they've got John Connor. The machines have got John Connor, and not John Connor. They've got Kyle, and John has to break in to get him out. And I'm thinking, but if you just fucking kill him, John never happens. That makes no sense at all. But that's assuming the machine knows that John's father is Kyle. If they don't, that problem actually goes away. But first time round, I watched it and thinking that makes no sense. Actually, it might not be an issue, but yet you've still got a film that's. Well, we'll talk about it next week because I need to rewatch it. But it did have hasty rewrites to accommodate who the leading man was and make the main character not, from what was not meant to be the main character and stuff like that. And it's
one of those films where the backstory and the making of is probably more interesting than the film itself.
It is the film where you can probably find it on YouTube. It is the film where Christian Bale absolutely lost the.
Oh god, yeah, he does that massive rant, didn't he? Oh my gosh, I remember that.
At a lighting technician or whatever it was.
Yeah, somebody looked at him wrong or didn't.
Good
got
for
into his eyeline or something like that.
He was trying to work and things were being moved around in his eyeline and stuff like that.
He got really upset.
And it was like, I'm done with you professionally, man. He really ripped into this guy. He's apologised for it since, and it's just like, well, tensions run high. It's not
in the heat of the moment. He got really upset.
Don't particularly hold anything against him, but it doesn't speak to a particularly happy working environment, to be honest. But we'll see.
No, it sounded quite stressful.
We're about to see the future war, which means, Becca,
Do You Expect Us to Talk will return with Terminator: Salvation.